morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Thursday, January 7th. I'm Gary Stevens. Not much open line time today, unfortunately. After the 10 o'clock news block, we'll air a segment of the interview that Chris Allen had earlier this morning with Congressman Bill Huizenga on the events yesterday in the Capitol. And we will have a couple of moments after that. Patty Vandenberg in about an hour with what's new around Holland. And then we will have Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker and one of his captains, Chris Kuhn, the monthly update from down at the old seat building in Allegan. That's where the new jail and police sheriff's department's headquarters is. And then we'll have Wellspring from Spectrum Health Zealand Community Hospital. But on this first Thursday of the month, we devote our first half hour to dealing with matters involving Holland City Hall with the operational leader of the city of Holland. He is the city manager, Keith Van Beek. He is on the other end of our Zoom connection. Keith, good morning. Glad you are again joining us, and Happy New Year from WHTC.
And Happy New Year to you, Gary. Good to be here. Good to be in Holland this morning.
Good that you are with us. And if you have a question for Keith, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. I need to bring this subject up. It might be more in line for Matt Messer and the Holland Department of Public Safety, but yet it is also an operational question, Keith, is the fact that in light of what happened yesterday at the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, and then now in light of what's happening at the state Capitol, which has been cleared because of a undisclosed threat that had been phoned in, do you start looking at, are we secure at Holland City Hall and that type of procedures? Because who knows, I wouldn't say what happened here, but you have to be prepared for all contingencies.
Yeah, I think all of us, Gary, have entertained different thoughts over this last year and months that we've never had to entertain before, right? So I will say that, yes, I have had conversations with the chief and with some of the events that we've had in this last year. Without going into details, we have contingencies in place where if we believe that there's any threat, whether it be to residents or our building or other buildings, that we can call in reinforcements and do what we need to do to make sure that this is a safe city for everyone. I don't foresee that happening, but know that yes, we have those types of conversations and are as prepared as we can be to make sure that we can keep safety and law and order here in our great little city.
Yeah, again, I don't mind. I certainly understand you not wanting to go into the details of it, but just more than anything else, you're aware of the situation, and if it does come up, you can't be ready for every contingency, but still, you have at least something in mind. Yeah,
that's part of kind of the emergency management function that I would describe. So in my 20 plus years that I've done this in all the agencies where I've been, periodically you kind of gather the groups together and you do it's called tabletop exercises, where someone probably late on a Wednesday night says, what kind of chaos can I cause theoretically? And then you actually play it out and you say, okay, this just happened. What are you going to do in response? And it's really an exercise then, a tabletop exercise of our entire emergency management system, up to and including the hospital system, for example. So that as much as you can, you prepare for the unexpected.
395-1450. Let's get to a phone call. Good morning. You're on the line with Holland City Manager Keith Van Beek.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Van Beek. I'd like an explanation because I'm ignorant of everything that's going on with the possible rezoning effort at the UDC, or I don't even know what it's called, but I've seen a lot on local, let's say, internet channels, a lot of discussions, and from what it sounds like is all the houses are going to be torn down and duplexes are going to be everywhere. And I wonder if you can give an explanation, and I have no opinion on it. I'm just looking for more information from a factual source of what it would mean and what the discussion is about. So I'll hang up and listen because I'm traveling in my car.
I appreciate the call. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. Go ahead there, Keith.
You know, I am so pleased that gentleman called and asked that question, because it has been something that I kind of watched and just kind of, quite frankly, kind of wondered about like, how do these things, happen? So I'm going to dial all the way back. So what we're doing right now is we're doing something called the Unified Development Ordinance, which among many things, it also takes a look at the zoning that we have throughout the entire city. So then when you talk about the zoning, this is a chance where there have been discussions by the Planning Commission about possible changes in the zoning. And staff and the consultant made kind of a first set of recommendations on a variety of things. And early on in the process, some on the Planning Commission said, hey, let's evaluate possibly making a change. And the one that had gathered the most attention is that some of the rules surrounding what was the traditional single family development, it used to be called R1 district, and they're going to call it now LDR, low density residential. For a while, they had discussions about possibly allowing the conversion of some of those homes or some empty lots in some cases to be converted into duplexes by right. Yes, there has been, and quite frankly, when I heard that was something that the Planning Commission was going to discuss, city manager training said in the back of my head, yeah, that's going to generate some discussion and interest and pushback. And guess what? It did. And quite frankly, I look at that as good process, and that's how government is supposed to work. And what happened already is, I think it's like 3 weeks ago already, later in December, the Planning Commission had a series of public hearings, because that's what we do when we're looking at making decisions. They had a series of public hearings, and they heard pretty overwhelming feedback that the residents of Holland weren't particularly interested or thought that was such a great idea. So they've already peeled that back. Now, technically, they're still in the course of conversation, so they haven't even taken a final vote on anything. And the Planning Commission, before they would do anything, would have to recommend it to council, and then council would go through a series of public hearings, and then they would have to approve something. But that kind of duplex and a lot of the conversation that's going on in social media right now has already been significantly dialed back. And really now the only thing, my understanding, the Planning Commission has kind of tentatively agreed to, and I think would be part of the recommendation, is that they would only allow what's called accessory dwelling units. And someone's described it as kind of like that mother-in-law apartment, or maybe a situation where a family has a developmentally disabled son or daughter that can live somewhat independently, but still needs a little attention, that they could actually have that attached to their home. But one of the things that they've been that Planning Commission has talked about is that they would require that one of the occupants in that be owner occupied.
395. Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
I hope that answers it. There's a lot of detail in there, but I think the short answer is a lot of the hubbub that's been going on out there and letters to the editor and everything is probably 3 weeks old already. The Planning Commission has already listened to the feedback of the community and has already pulled back those earlier discussions.
395-1450. Let's get to another call. Good morning. You're on the line with Holland City Manager Keith Van Beek.
Yeah, good morning, Keith. Yeah, I saw a map for this route, but I love walking near Holland, so it's a little Neil family video. And I hope it would get done with COVID. I like to see Matt running flex route bus, and they've been going right to one since March of 2020. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed and frustrated for Matt not running flex route buses.
Okay. I'll get this comment on it. Thank you very much for the call. Max Transit bus stops, and they can't be everywhere for the fixed routes, but they're trying their best, I suppose.
Yeah, obviously it's been a difficult year in just government structure, and I'm happy to take that comment and listen to that. But government structure is interesting too. Max is not part of the City of Holland structure. Max is its own authority and reports to its own appointed board, and has nothing to do with the City of Holland. But I do understand, and we certainly, when Max is not able to operate the way they have historically, it makes it really difficult for a lot of people that depend on that for public transportation. So,
the thing is,
they're doing their best.
Well, the thing is, how the City of Holland is, they're part of, the regional authority in the sense that, Max runs buses through Holland Township, Holland, and Zeeland, and you have a spot on the table, so to say, in the governing. So you put a squeaky wheel on one of them, and City of Holland can go to the Max Transit Authority and say, hey, we're getting this grief about this, do something about it. So to a certain extent, I can understand the question being asked of you about Max, but yet, it's not something directly for the City of Holland.
You bet. And Gary and I know this. Longtime listener and frequent caller, Mike Trethui, is the City of Holland representative on Max Transit, and I can almost guarantee that he's listening, and I'm sure he'll represent that good caller very well.
All right, 395-1450, 395-1450. I want to do one more follow-up on the earlier call, but I'm going to hold off for a second because I do want to get this passed along from MERS News. The state capitol commissioners received the all clear from the Michigan State Police, and the Michigan Capitol building has been reopened to members and staff. That's according to the vice chair of the Michigan Capitol Commission, John Truscott, who told MERS News that the state police bomb squad with their bomb sniffing dogs were inside the state capitol building at the 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. hour. After a bomb threat was phoned in, the building was closed to the public in the early morning hours. The MSP report the building was under beefed up surveillance anyway, given the events that unfolded in the nation's capital on Wednesday. Since the building was closed to the public during the Michigan protest of a few hundred folks, there was a feeling that no one was able to place an explosive device inside. But with all cases such as this, had to be taken seriously. All steps were taken to make sure the building was secure. MERS was informed. State lawmakers are not scheduled to be back in town until January 13th. We talked earlier this hour with State Senator Roger Victory to get his thoughts on the matter, and unaware that they're not working this week, unlike Congress, which is working this week. But I just want to pass that word along to our listeners from something we had been working on earlier this hour. 395-1450, 395-1450. Keith, I want to dial back to the call 2 callers ago concerning the zoning and the duplex situation. That brings up a point of emphasis for the city about dealing with affordable housing and trying to make sure there is more affordable housing in the city of Holland. That's one thing. It's nice to say, but then when actions are being done, the NIMBY crowd comes in. Not in my backyard. I have a funny feeling to a certain extent this might be a matter in that regard.
Yeah, I see you making that connection there, Gary, and I'm not going to say that it's not a connection, right? Certainly part of the UDO and the rezoning probably has an eye towards, density and kind of finding the right zoning, which then, can segue into affordable housing discussions. But Gary, we're here right now. We're doing, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. We're preparing for kind of our presentation to council and coffee with council and all those types of things. And because of COVID, we're actually doing videos this year. So I actually recorded my video yesterday. And one of the things I talked in there is about affordable housing. And I went through the list of all of the things that we've accomplished in calendar year 2020. Not only that the city did, but more so that we did in partnerships with other entities. And you know what? The needle is absolutely moving on affordable housing, where we've had some really great projects in the city that are completed and that are in the process of being built and that are in the pipeline of being planned. So it's absolutely a difficult subject to kind of get over the finish line and say, hey, cross it off the list. We've accomplished it. I don't know if you ever arrive on some things, Gary, but I'm also pretty positive about it, because I think we've made really good progress, and we're going to continue in that way, and we're going to do it in such a way that fits well into the community. That's really a principle, a premise that we have. So,
Good morning. You're on the line with Keith Van Beek.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Stevens. Good morning, Mr. Van Beek. Thank you for your public service for the people of Holland, Michigan. I'm kind of concerned about the recreation program in the city of Holland. When I was young, I used to be a play school director in Lakeview School on Lugers Road and West 32nd, and I noticed a lot of people, the kids, are playing in the street now, and we need more play space and more neighborhood parks for the kids so they don't get involved in the gang activity. And obvious kids in the inner city are joining the gangs. Their big recreation is the drug dealing and breaking people's houses, but I think we need more recreation. We should revise the city recreation program and so forth, and have more play space for the kids to keep them off the streets and out of the gang. So maybe you got some ideas. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for the call, Keith.
Yeah, thank you. This has been one of those years, right, where we just don't, in this most recent year, we haven't had some of the recreation programming that we typically have, but we absolutely have and are committed to recreational programming. Lots of great partners, in fact, even more sites than we've had before. And we've been excited to do a lot of investments in our parks. And I think when council here gathers in a couple months, they're going to hear more about how we're renovating and really investing in our park structures. But I agree with the caller. We need to have spaces. We need to have programming. And you know what our grandmas all used to say, right, Gary? Like, you need to keep those kids active. It's really good and healthy for them. So we're going to continue to do what we can in that space.
Indeed. 395-1450, 395-1450. Let's talk a little bit about what we would normally talk on in January with the city manager. The budget process, it begins in earnest this month. It is a little bit different. No really face-to-face opportunities, but yet tell us a little bit about how the public can get their input in these early stages of formulating a budget for fiscal 2022.
Yeah, we're in a key week right now where we're really trying to let the public know there's always the opportunity to communicate with the city and with council. But right now in particular, we have coffee with council. And guess what? We're not doing that in person this year, Gary, just like I'm not in the studio with you this morning. So we have a special way where, in particular, residents with ideas, with thoughts, with concerns, we ask you send those emails to coffeewithcouncil at cityofholland.com. All run together. Again, that's coffeewithcouncil at cityofholland.com. And we have kind of a multi-stage process, Gary, where that's the opportunity for residents to really put in their input. We have the results of our citizen survey that we're going to, we're having finalized for us right now, and that's going to be a source of what I'll call citizen input to council. Next week, Wednesday night at 5:30 at our study session, those videos that I referenced earlier, all of our department leadership are shooting videos for council. And we're excited about those because I think then we can make them pretty freely available for citizens to watch too at their leisure on our website. And what we do is we give them a report on how we did in calendar year 2020 and how we're doing in the first 6 months of our fiscal year, which runs from July through June. And then from a staff perspective, we're also able to share with council what we think are the needs, the priorities that should be part of building the budget for next year. And then council on the 23rd has their annual retreat, which we actually call the advance instead of retreating. And that's where council has a very targeted opportunity to talk about priorities, to talk about all the information that we've been able to share with them, that citizens have been able to share with them. And then from that, staff has the responsibility to bring back a budget to present to council in April.
395-1450. Let's get one more call before we button up this segment. Good morning. You're on the line with Keith Van Beek.
Yes, good morning. I'm a local resident that came in from out of town about 10 years ago. And over the years, I've noticed a clear separation based on just housing alone. The disparating rent increases upwards of $1,000 a month or more, even for a two-bedroom house or two-bedroom apartment, is considered affordable, whereas home ownership is way, way less than that. And there's really no real programs to get people out of that mindset of home ownership. And it pretty much perpetuates that flow of mentality of you're not going to get any better, but you're going to continue to see everybody else progress around you. So what types of programs or any type of avenue are you guys taking to kind of help people get out of that I'm stuck renting, especially in an economy or a situation like this, and seeing all these technically affordable housing going up when they're truly not affordable, and so many of them going into residential areas, pushing people out of those areas and truly introducing a true divide of gentrification. What kind of programs are you folks doing to avoid that from happening and basically turning into a small Grand Rapids and exploding and really imploding on yourselves?
All right, I'll get the response. Thank you very much for the call. Keith, you got a couple of moments.
Yeah, well, a couple of moments probably won't cover it, but because the callers, I don't disagree with the caller, but what he described is really a pretty large systemic type thing that's not new just to the city of Holland, but it's also not really something that your city government can construct a program to assist with.
Okay, what I'm going to do is this, because I got to button it up. That type of question needs to be asked of our friend Mike over at the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area. Those are the ones can deal with those programs as well.
And Housing Next, which we're very involved with. So there's a lot of work done, but it's with partners and trying to be a smart plan community.
We're out of time. Keith Van Beek, Holland City Manager, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Talk of the Town. Let's do this all again next month. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate it. Mike, I've got Mike on the line from the CFHC. It is Keith Van Beek, the Holland City Manager on Real News Now, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.